everyone, welcome to That's Good Denver. I'm your host Chris Romeo, and sorry it's been a few weeks since I've posted. Haven't really gotten a chance to get the Broncos recap video, but I'm actually about to do that after this video. Our first video, I got my guest Blake Egley here from college. Both me and Blake graduated college from Bethel and got our sports management degree. I'm sports studies, but we're going to do a breakdown of the 2024-25 Colts season coming up. And so the first question is, the Colts finished their season at 8-9 and missed the playoffs. Was this a good, mediocre, or bad season for the Colts?
I would say it's a bad season. I know 8-9 says it's mediocre, but the way the roster is good enough that they shouldn't be an 8-9 team. And a lot of that falls on the general manager, Chris Ballard, who continues to show that he is not the right guy for the job. He has continued to leave obvious holes on the team that he does not address, and to me that's their biggest issue. And it doesn't seem like anything's going to change because our owner decided to keep him again for next year. So it's just really difficult time to be a Colts fan right now. 8-9 is very mediocre, and that's what the Colts are. They're just a very mediocre team, mediocre franchise right now. But to me, that's just bad. They're not even worthy of being called mediocre.
Right. I think this was more of a mediocre season for them. I mean, 8-9 is not really a bad record, but they probably lost some games where they shouldn't have this year. The game against the Giants, where they're trying to win and keep their playoff hopes alive, they gave up 45 points. They have some holes on the roster, but they also got some good star players. Anthony Richardson is clearly their best player. He's a great quarterback. They also got Michael Pittman on offense. So I think Michael Pittman's very underrated. So the offense can put up some points against a lot of teams. I think their defense kind of let them down, but at the same time, the Colts offensively and defensively, it's just kind of one of those weird teams. I remember when the Colts played the Broncos. The Colts defense is what kept them in that game. They picked off Bo Nix 3 times, and I was getting a little worried there for a while. And really, the Broncos defense is what won them Denver that game in the fourth quarter. But then their defense has a few good games. Then their defense has a bad game against the Giants. So I would say this is a mediocre season because, at the end of the day, they're only 2 games out of the playoff push. And, if they would have found a way to beat the Broncos in that, Week 15 game, they'd be, taking it down to the last week as far as making it to the playoffs. So I would say this is mediocre. It could be better. It could be worse. What was the Colts' problem more of their offense or their defense this year?
That's a great question, and I would say you could honestly put it 50-50 both ways. It always seemed like when the offense would have a great game, the defense would be horrific. And when the defense was just playing lights out, the offense couldn't do anything. And it seemed to be like that every game this year. They just couldn't put both sides of the ball together and play a complete game. But if I had to pick one, honestly, I would say it's more the offense because Anthony Richardson, as great as the flashes that he's shown, way too many drives were 3 and outs this year. And our defense just spent way too much time on the field all year. And they would just get gassed by the end of the games because our offense cannot sustain drives. And that's something that absolutely has to change next year is the consistency of the Colts offense and Richardson being able to convert third downs because we had way too many 3 and outs this year. I will say a lot of guys didn't help Richardson out in offense. Our tight end position is the worst group in the league. We have the worst group of tight ends in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor is obviously good. Our wide receivers are just a bunch of guys to me. No one is special. So I'm hoping throughout this offseason, through the draft, we can add a few more playmakers to our offense, and hopefully that can help Richardson out next year. But yeah, both units were underwhelming, and they both need addressed big time in the off season.
Mhm. Right. I think it could go either way with the offense or the defense. Like you made a good point. It seemed like in a lot of Colts games when their offense was putting up points, their defense was allowing a lot of points too to make it a close game. If the defense was playing lights out, the offense wasn't producing, which made it a close game. So I feel like you guys have a few more holes maybe on defense because I do think Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman, they do have some good chemistry, and you also got the best running back in the league and Jonathan Taylor. So I mean the Colts offense does definitely have some firepower. It's just I mean you also got to think the Colts have also lost some people on defense. They lost Stephon Gilmore a few years back. That and I mean, even though the defense produced at times. So I think it could go either way of whether you want to blame it on the offense or the defense. But I think you want to blame a little bit more of it on the defense because the offense does have firepower and the defense did let up points at times this year. Um, what Colts players do you think they might lose or add this offseason?
So far we've seen through the start of free agency. I do like the Colts did add two pieces to their secondary. They added Cam Bynum, a safety from the Vikings, and Charvarius Ward, a cornerback from the 49ers. Both of those guys are two of the better players at their positions in the league. That should help out our secondary a lot because good quarterbacks would just pick apart our defense because we just had no guys who were great cover guys on the back end of our defense. So that should help out a lot. Our pass rush is pretty good already. So adding those two guys to our defense should help our defense out a lot. So those are great moves. And then we added Daniel Jones to come in and compete with Anthony Richardson for the starting job. We'll see. We'll see who wins that. They say it's going to be an open quarterback competition. I expect Richardson to win it, and if he can't, it's not a good sign to me if you can't beat out Daniel Jones.
Right.
So those are some things that have happened so far this offseason. Some guys we've lost. They lost Ryan Kelly and Will Fries on their offensive line. Those are two very good offensive linemen, two of the better offensive linemen in the NFL. So that's something that's going to need to be addressed through the draft or still through free agency. But yeah, that's about what we've done so far in free agency. Obviously, like I said earlier, we need to bring in another tight end because our tight end position is the worst in the NFL. And then we'll need a couple more offensive linemen. And it'd be nice to see sign another pass rusher for our defense as well. But so far, I can't complain about this offseason. I think we've done some good things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't really see the Colts losing really anybody big or anything. Jonathan Taylor's gonna stay for the foreseeable future. Anthony Richardson, they gotta really keep him. And Michael Pittman, but I mean, yeah, I don't think they're gonna lose anyone who, in terms of who they add right now. I mean, there's already been enough free agency moves. I mean, DK Metcalf going to the Steelers is off the table. Uh, a few other Devontae Adams going to the Rams, that's off the table. Cooper Kupp signing with the Seahawks, that's off the table. So I mean, you're kind of running out of free agencies to trade for and sign. So like, who knows if you really have the assets. So I mean, as far as adding players, I think you need to more focus on the draft a month from now, and I mean, as far as who they need to add, I mean, I think they really need to add more people on the defense. They've lost some people in the secondary that, maybe they could add another corner or a safety. And, you said the pass rush is one of the best in the NFL, so, like, maybe a better linebacker, maybe a linebacker or something. So, beef up that defense, add another wide receiver, and, that'd start sending the team in the right direction. what kind of trades, signings, or draft pickups should the Colts make this offseason? This might be kind of similar.
Yeah, kind of similar to what we said, but someone the Colts have been looking at trading for in rumors I've seen is Dallas Goedert, a tight end from the Eagles, which would be a huge boost to the tight end position and someone that would be great for Richardson to have as a safety net to go to because he hasn't had a tight end so far in his career to go to. Another guy they've looked at trading for is Trey Hendrickson, a pass rusher from the Bengals, one of the best pass rushers in the league. The asking price sounds like it's really steep right now, though, so they're still holding off on him. But there's a couple guys you could see them potentially still trade for. Kind of already went through some of the guys they signed. Draft pickups. Obviously, we're going to need to sign some more offensive linemen. If we don't end up trading for Goddard or another tight end, definitely draft a tight end, either Tyler Warren out of Penn State or Colson Loveland out of Michigan. Both those guys look really good. So yeah, tight end, offensive line, another pass rusher, and we should have a decent team next year. But those are the positions that need addressed.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you guys got Dallas Goedert, that'd be great. I think he's a fairly underrated tight end that doesn't get talked about enough. The Eagles. Tight end would be nice. I already said, like they should add some people on defense and stuff. But then at the same time, offensive line. I mean, that's a position that doesn't get talked about enough in football. And really, offensive line seems like that's always been the issue for the Colts. Even back when Peyton Manning was quarterback, it seemed like he did get sacked a lot. I mean, he still put up great numbers. I mean, he still won the Colts the Super Bowl and still, made it to the playoffs pretty much every year. But offensive line, definitely when Andrew Luck was quarterback too, the offensive line seemed like it sent him back, and that's why Andrew Luck had to retire early because he got hit so much, and he was already having injuries like in his 20s. And then Peyton Manning didn't really have injury problems with the Colts, but as he got older, like he had the neck problem and the thigh injury when he was with the Broncos. So I think I think they could definitely add some offensive line because offensive line is one of the bigger. I think offensive line is the most underrated position in the NFL. You got Jonathan Taylor's a great running back, but if Jonathan Taylor has a game where he's only averaging 3 yards a carry, you could blame that on Jonathan Taylor. But what if the offensive line isn't creating big enough holes? What if the offensive line isn't really doing their job? So, offensive line, definitely the most underrated position in football. They definitely could get some offensive linemen and, sign some people on defense, in my opinion. Is Anthony Richardson the franchise QB in Indianapolis? If so, do you think he could bring a Super Bowl to the Colts?
That's a great question. We're going to find out this offseason. There's been reports that he's already taken this offseason more seriously than any point of his high school, college, or pro career, which is great to hear. I've also heard that he's going to be training with Josh Allen's trainer, who really helped develop Josh Allen's game when he got in the NFL. And he's also supposedly working out with Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels this offseason. So we'll see if any of that helps him out. I really hope it does. But we'll see in the quarterback competition with Daniel Jones how much what he's really made of. We'll see what he's got. And this is kind of his last chance this year with the Colts. He's got to be able to show them that he can stay on the field for more than 80% of their games. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field so far in his career, and he's got to be more accurate and more consistent. But yeah, that's a great question. As far as the Super Bowl goes, as of right now, no. But if he has a good season, that could change. But as of right now, I don't think he could bring a Super Bowl to the Colts. But if he does end up reaching his potential and being what everyone thought he could be, then yeah, he could absolutely. But right now, no.
Mm-hmm. I think Anthony Richardson is the franchise QB for now. Statistically, he's put up pretty decent numbers, I would say.
Well, he does have the worst completion. He does have the worst completion percentage in the history of the NFL right now.
Worst completion percentage?
Yeah, he has the worst completion percentage. He completed less than 50% of his passes last year.
All last year.
All last year, under 50%.
Wow.
That's the big issue with him is inaccuracy, and he's just not consistent enough. But I know it's, like, you probably seen a bunch of highlights of him. Like, you know, he has some like big wow factor plays, like, and he can be pretty electric, but he just can't put it all together. That's his problem right now.
Right. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's probably this season of, you know, will determine whether he's a franchise QB this upcoming season. I mean, I've seen highlights of him. He is very, you know, he has shown some good running plays. He's that game against the Patriots on the road. You know, the Colts were down 24-17, and Patriots had him on the ropes, the 4th and goal, and Anthony Richardson threw a touchdown pass. Then the Colts went for 2 in that game, and the Colts got the 2-point conversion too. So like Anthony Richardson was pretty much the reason why they won that game, and that was probably actually one of the more crazier regular season games I watched this past year. Too bad the Patriots puppy didn't like that. Do I think Richardson will bring a Super Bowl to the Colts? I think. I mean, as of right now, probably not. I mean, it's possible someday. I mean, Anthony Richardson's young enough, but I mean, they just got a long way to go. I mean, they got to work on getting back to the playoffs. And you know, Anthony Richardson's got to really develop. He's got to work on that completion percentage, probably. And you know, I mean, they just got. You know, they got to beef up in the draft. They got to get another receiver, beef up that defense and stuff. So it's possible someday, but they got a ways to go, I think. From a scale of 1 to 10, how good were the Colts this year?
I would say they're right in the middle because they're very mediocre. 8 and 9 is probably the definition of a 5 out of 10. I mean, there is a lot of good and a lot of really bad. I'd say a 5.
From a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, 8 and 9 is not really that bad of a record. I mean, you win one more game, you have a winning season. I mean, I would say I probably agree, probably like a 5. You know, I mean, they played in a lot of close games this year, but it's the consistency on both sides of the ball that hurt them. You know, like you said, I mean, when the offense was scoring points, the defense was giving up points, and the defense when the defense was lights out, the offense wasn't doing anything. So I mean, they really just had a hard time finding consistency this year. But 8 and 9, I mean, that's not really that bad, you know. And if they can build off that, that'd maybe help in the future. But right now, I'd probably say a 5. What do you think the Colts' record will be in 2025?
It's hard to tell at this point, especially since we haven't had the
schedule.
Yeah, especially since we haven't had the draft yet. But so far, I like the signings they've made in free agency. I think it's realistic to shoot for 10 wins. I think anything short of 10 wins this next year is a failure. Especially if they don't get 10 wins, 10 and 7 next year. Chris Ballard's got to go. Shane Steichen's got to go. And honestly, Anthony Richardson's got to go. And they got to completely clean house and start fresh. So 10 and 7 to me is the expectation for next year. Make the playoffs or win the division. Ideally win the division, but you gotta find a way to make the playoffs next year. If not, then they need a full on clean house, rebuild, tear everything down. So
yeah. I think 10-7 would be an improvement for sure. You're heading the right direction. 2 wins better, and if they can just keep doing that, get better and better. Yeah, I mean, some of it could be on the coaching. You don't really want to get to that point to where you'd want to like clean house and like get rid of Anthony Richardson and like your coordinators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, it um, it's just really you know, you, it does help. Record wise, I'm working on getting the schedule right now.
Well, they haven't come out with the release schedule yet. All they have is the opponents they play so far. They don't have like the weekly schedule yet.
Right, but if they come up with the opponents, that would even be helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Alright, I'm gonna pause the video. So yeah, we pulled up the schedule, and I mean, they are in a fairly easy division. They could play the Titans twice, the Jaguars twice. Both those got to be wins. So that's 4 wins right now. The Texans twice. I mean, if the Texans stay healthy, that's probably 2 losses. With their stack receiving core and C.J. Stroud. The Broncos and Raiders, I say they split those. Go 5-3. Cardinals at home, that should be a win. Niners at home.
That could go either way. Niners lost a lot of people.
Niners have had a terrible free agency, but they got a good quarterback. Well, I'll say they split with the Dolphins and Niners 6-4. I'll say they Falcons. I mean,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, the Falcons got a stacked offense with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, but their defense is terrible, so that could go either way too. That's your home schedule. So I say they go 5-4 at home, and then on the road, they got at Jacksonville. That could go either way. So 5. So I'll say 6-4. Probably two losses. So 6-7, 6-8. Maybe even 6-9. So I
got
see,
a tough schedule.
Yeah. So I mean, their home schedules are very winnable. They they got some winnable games at home, but their road schedule is very difficult. They're at Jacksonville, at Kansas City, at the Chargers, at the Rams, at the Steelers, at the Seahawks. So I probably see them finishing 7-10 for how tough their schedule is next year. But maybe if they have good enough draft. Right, my record prediction for the Colts is 7-10 next year, and then like you said if stuff doesn't change, then they might have to rebuild. My last question is, who are the winners and losers of free agency?
Well, you mentioned the loser already, and that's the San Francisco 49ers have lost, seems like half their team. I think their Super Bowl window has completely shut. I don't see Brock Purdy being able to carry that team. As far as winners go, the Bears, to me, are a big winner so far. Their big issue is offensive line and protecting Caleb Williams, and they've signed, I think, 4 different offensive linemen so far this offseason, so they've really addressed a key need. I like what the Broncos have done. They signed Drake Greenlaw and another safety from San Francisco as well. Yeah, so far, the Patriots, too. The Patriots are another team that they've made some big splashes in free agency so far. Another loser, I'll say the Philadelphia Eagles. They've lost a lot of pieces on that defense from the Super Bowl too. I don't like what I've seen from them in the offseason. But yeah, it's still early. Still a lot of stuff that's going to happen.
Yeah, they might be the winners of free agency too. But winners and losers of free agency, I think a big winner is the Washington Commanders. I mean, they already had Jaden Daniels win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and actually Jaden Daniels had the best rookie season out of any quarterback this past year. Now they added Deebo Samuel. They added a few pieces on defense too. So I think the Commanders, they're loaded on both sides of the football. They're big winners. A loser of free agency is easily the 49ers. They've lost, they've lost Deebo Samuel. They've lost a few offensive. They lost Christian McCaffrey's a free agent, I think. I don't think he signed anywhere yet. They also lost a lot of people on defense. Dre Greenlaw, the Tolona Husfunga. And another loser, I think, is probably the Seattle Seahawks. Even though they added Sam Darnold, even though they got Cooper Kupp, they've lost a lot of pieces. They lost their starting QB in Geno Smith. They lost DK Metcalf, easily the best receiver. So those are two big pieces on offense they lost, and they brought Sam Darnold in. Sam Darnold, he had a really good year this past year, but I don't think he's as good as I think he might be. I think Sam Darnold is overrated, in my opinion. Statistically, it might say differently, but just watching him, a lot of 3 and outs, getting ready to it's really tough to say on who's better between Geno Smith and Sam Darnold.
I think they're kind of the same. The same kind of player.
Yes, I think they're kind of the same. Neither one has really done that much in his career. And really, statistically, Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, they've had 1 or 2 good seasons. So they're good backups, but not really a franchise QB, I don't think. And
right.
Another winner of free agency, I don't mean to be biased, but I think the Broncos might be a winner of free agency. Adding Dre Greenlaw and Talon Husfunga, I think our defense is completely set. And now adding a good tight end. The Broncos literally haven't had a good tight end since the Broncos won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning with Owen Daniels. So, it's pretty exciting, the offseason they had and how good Denver had this past season. But, yeah, losers are for sure the Seahawks and 49ers, which really helps that division with the Cardinals and Rams. And the winners are by far the Commanders and Broncos. And I could see the Bears being a winner. I haven't really seen that many free agency pickups for the Bears. But, yeah, it's been a pretty crazy free agency. But anything else you got?
Oh, I got another loser free agency. The Dallas Cowboys didn't do anything. They're just going to be the same old Cowboys they are every year and lose.
Right.
Another loser Cowboys. That's it.
Yeah, that's about it. That's our Colts recap of the video. Next video is the Broncos recap. That's it, everybody. I'm Chris Romeo. That's Blake Egley. And that's Good Denver.